another episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema, episode number 178, being recorded on Thursday, August 28th, 2025 at 4:54 p.m. It is a beautiful day out. The sun is shining. There is a nice, warmish, coolish breeze in the air. It's not too much of either. It's great t-shirt weather. It's great weather to be out driving if you need to and have the window down. As the night goes on or as the sun goes down, it'll start to get a little bit cooler. So maybe at that point, you'll roll the window up. But in the meantime, it is great to be outside, to go for a walk, to go for a drive, to get some fresh air, and to really make the most of the day. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful time of the year, and we're gonna really cherish this one portion of it as we get into the fall, and then we'll have a whole other context of what we'll watch, what we'll read, what kind of creative endeavors we will spur up, and our environment and the weather will definitely be an aspect of that as well. Certain literature you want to read in the summer, maybe certain films you watch in the winter, and I don't mean strictly just like holidays. I'm not talking about you watch Christmas films in December. I mean more so kind of just certain kinds of films, whatever that may be. Ultimately, you're the one who is going to know what you want to watch at certain times of the year and read at certain times of the year. Summers are great for westerns. I find winters are great for, the fall is great for a lot of like horror films, a lot of really kind of cool movies like that, depending on which ones. And it brings to mind just a lot of inspiration, a lot of really great art, and it really fulfills our lives and, pushes us in the creative direction that we need to go. Yeah, man. So I was thinking a lot lately because of a video I was watching. I was watching this one video. It's fairly new, maybe about a couple months or so. New in the context of when this is recorded. It's this story of this dude who was living in the small town, and he owned this video store. His video store, excuse me. And the video store was losing money, and he had to close it. But one of the problems is that when he was closing it was that he had this regular woman who would come in every day with her ma. This woman has Down syndrome, and she would come in, and she had her routine. She loved the familiarity of the films on the shelves, and would rent a lot of the same films. But every day, she'd come in, get her food, get her film, would go home and watch it and eat. So that was the trouble that he was coming up with was, the inevitability of having to close the store. But how do you can't just, I guess you could just cut somebody off, but what are the repercussions of this? And what he decided to do is, since he also owned the local convenience store, I don't know if it's like a grocery, I think it's more of a convenience store than a grocery store. He actually had a little corner of the store installed that was a mini video store with shelving, had films on them, so this woman could still do her routine and go to the convenience store and pick up whatever film she wanted every day. And when I was watching that, I was thinking about, man, that is literally that's literally a cozy corner, man. That's what it is. There it is. That's a literal cozy corner of cinema right there, man. And I'm thinking about, why did I name this show The Cozy Corner of Cinema? I was getting a little existential with the whole thing. And I kind of like the mentality of, a space to kind of have you, man. Your things, this cozy, safe kind of area, man, where no matter what's going on, you can shut all that out. You can shut out whatever's going on in the outside world, whatever nonsense is going on social media. It's all right in your brain. It's all there to piss you off and, make you mad, and you just don't even engage with it. It's not worth the headache. But I think everybody having, whether it be a literal space or something more cognitive, is about having that space of your own. So I can sit here and I can look around at the work that I've put into the space around me. I can look at the films on the shelf or on the shelves all around me, and the posters, the artwork on the wall, and my books are not in here. They're actually in the other room. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but there's the cat jumping on the bag. Doors open. But, I mean, the cat adds plenty of character to the place as well. And now he's sitting down. Does he want rubs? Let's give him some rubs. He's getting rubs. Oh, he ran away. But it's all about finding, that kind of cozy corner of your own life, man. Whether it is a room, whether it is a state of mind, it's that place where you're like, man, you can shut a literal door, you can shut a figurative door, and you can be with yourself. Because ultimately, you gotta be comfortable with yourself. I know too many dudes in my life who, they all they talk about is, man, I want more friends, I want a girlfriend, I want a boyfriend, I want this and that, but it's sort of like, brother, are you comfortable with yourself? You're the one who's got to live with your skin 24/7, man. So if you think that somebody else or something else is going to fulfill that void, you got to really kind of take a step back, man, because what happens when these aspects are taken from you? What if you're in a relationship that doesn't work out? What if a friendship doesn't work out? What if maybe one day, you're really interested in, cooking or something, and then the next day you're like, I actually have no passion for this anymore. This is out the window. Then what do you got? And that's ultimately up for every person to find out and to find their own kind of cozy corner. It's just something that I was thinking about, man, because I think the corner can be like a section of, it can be like a room. It can be, not a literal, it could be a literal corner, I mean, like in that video I was telling you about in that story. But I think having that our own kind of cozy corner is a total state of mind. And then just being there. I was watching this other video as well, which is really great. This dude was talking about how he added all this stuff to his living area in his bedroom. He added these different kinds of lamps to make it more atmospheric. It wasn't just an overhead lamp like a hospital. He would have these different kinds of lamps. We'd have a record player to just kind of have the option to not have to worry about going on Spotify or Apple. You have this kind of tangible physical media at your hands, and you're able to just kind of put it on at any point and appreciate it more. And that's kind of what I'm talking about as well when I was talking about the past couple weeks about physical media. It's just, I think there's more of a stake involved with it rather than just casually streaming a film and all that, because at this point now, I mean, what for when it comes to streaming, it's funny, I'm primarily using Tubi. That's free, man, and there's more than enough options on there. I've found so many just wonderful films, especially documentaries, just tons and tons. And I've just canceled my streaming services, man. I just don't need them. There's plenty of other ways to come across art, and I'm not a fan of just sitting and browsing. And I've found myself susceptible to that more than once, just being on there. And then after 5-10 minutes, you realize, man, what am I doing? What am I even looking for? Am I just looking for some impossible title that I'm gonna be like, wow, I wanted to see this or that. I have just so many films. I have thousands and thousands of films I want to see that I haven't seen and may never see. May never see all of them, but I don't have any interest in just sitting and just looking at whatever kind of I'll go into this category. There's nothing there. I'll go into this it's just nonsense, man. But anyways, with that, it was interesting to kind of I saw on Mubi, they were promoting a re-release or a restoration. I assume more of a re-release than a restoration because it's not that old of a film. I mean, this is only 2006 here. Film by Tarsem Singh, which is The Fall from 2006. And it's funny, I remember when this film came out back in 2006, and I remember the split kind of reactions to this. The general consensus I always heard about the film was that it's one of the most beautiful looking films ever, and that's completely true. I mean, you hear about so many films where people talk about, oh, you can just pause it and it's like a painting right there, and that is completely the case here. There are just so many sequences in this film that, I mean, warrant this being viewed on the biggest screen possible. I'm watching this thinking about, like, man, some dude watching this like on his like iPhone, man. It's just like, that is completely wild to me. of course, everybody takes art in different ways, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. But I think when there are certain films of a certain scale, that when you see it on any screen, you kind of realize, man, this is such a grand kind of spectacle that I really want to see on something bigger. But Tarsem Singh is a very visual filmmaker. This is the only film of his that I've seen. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not true. I've seen two of his films, but he's perhaps most famous. Directed the film The Cell in 2000 with Jennifer Lopez, which Arrow just put out a 4K of not too long ago, and I haven't seen. But they have a sale going on right now, and I'd be curious to give that a watch. I've always heard mixed things about it. I've never heard it considered a great film. In terms of like just in the past, but he's also, I mean, he started off as a music video director, has a lot of his credits, and then he did The Fall in 2006, which is it's just such an ambitious film. I mean, it kind of reminds me of something along the lines of Until the End of the World by Wim Wenders, which you have this really grandiose, literally globe-trotting filmmaking, because you have, both these films, and you just the amount of countries that they filmed them in. I don't know how many countries Until the End of the World was filmed in, but The Fall, I think, was filmed in like 20 countries or something like that, and they really take advantage of it. Just the different landscapes, the different uses of color grading they do. I mean, it's a very, very sharp looking film, and it says here that the film was shot in 28 countries over the course of 4 years. According to the director, no stages or sets were ever used, only existing locations. But even the framing of a lot of this as well is so gorgeous. There's one shot in particular that they linger on, but in a way that actually you really kind of sits with you and is impactful. They dissolve the shot from a man's face to the outline in a desert kind of sandy area that's also making the guy's face. It's kind of hard to describe in words. It's one of these things. Sorry, I have a bag right here, and the cats like to jump on it. I got to be careful with that. But I'm watching this, and I'm like, man, you almost kind of wonder why. Well, I guess you can understand why more IMAXs don't take a chance on distributing re-releases of these films. Now, I know that a lot of like science museums they will do certain re-releases of films. Or bigger IMAXs will take more chances. But I think of even some recent films I had talked about, more specifically something along the lines of Koyaanisqatsi, or even a while ago I was talking about Baraka. Those are as visual films as they are auditory. And those are more less of a narrative than The Fall. Less of a I don't want to say cohesive in a negative way, but The Fall is more of a. It's not even traditional because it's doing something different. But I'm talking about in comparison to Koyaanisqatsi, to Baraka, where those are more about the message is there, but the experience as well. If he's getting sucked into this vortex of visual and auditory spectacle, but in the most positive way, not obnoxious, not nauseating, like so many films will do. But later on, he would do the film Immortals from 2011, Henry Cavill. I remember when that came out. I didn't see it till a little bit later, but that was one I remember people were talking about it being very visual and very violent. And I remember some of the violence, and I remember some of the visuals, but I also haven't seen it probably since 2011, 2012. So that's about 14, 15 years right now. I don't really remember much of the film, so I could not tell you that. Interestingly enough, his next two films, because he would do music, he was continuing doing music videos as well, but his next two films seem more like kind of gun for hire jobs. He does Mirror Mirror in 2012, the Snow White film, with, who's that actress? Lily Collins and Julia Roberts, which I have not seen, so I can't comment on the visual side of that. And then he also did this movie Selfless in 2015 with, I think it was Ryan Reynolds. And was Gary Oldman in that, or was that Ben Kingsley? Ben Kingsley was in that. And I remember seeing that trailer, and it looked. I didn't really think much of it, truthfully, but knowing that it was Tarsem Singh who directed that definitely feels more of a gun for hire sort of job. He also directed a film called Dear Yassi, or Dear Yassi. I don't know how to say that. Jassi. I don't know if that's a foreign name or not, from 2023, which will be seen at some point. But The Fall is just such a fascinating looking film. And it's interesting me talking about this because I don't think it's a great film, but it's one where I do think that it is so impressive to look at that it does really kind of overshadow the actual content of the film itself. Because we're cutting back and forth. We have this guy who's in a hospital bed. He is trying to get, I forgot what kind of medication it was. It was some addictive pills he was looking at, but he's stuck in bed. He's telling this really the most appropriate word to use is fantastical kind of story to this young girl in exchange for these pills. And it's one where it's not as egregious, but it was reminding me a little bit of a film that I don't like, and I don't really like to just dog on films. I'm not even gonna dog on it because I don't even think it's like a terrible film. But something like Tideland by Terry Gilliam, where there are these really incredible visuals, but with both the films, I do think the tone is a little tricky. Tideland more so, and I'm a big Terry Gilliam fan. I think he's typically very good with tone. Films like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Brazil will have really silly, really grand, big kind of spectacle moments. But then you also have really kind of frightening, more serious moments that kind of bring some levity to the situation, and that really kind of rides that tone so well. Tideland, I think, doesn't really work in that regard, but this was reminding me a little bit of that because you would have these really, not too like serious and dour. It's never that extreme, but there are far more serious moments in this, and then you'll have very lighthearted, sillier kinds of moments that almost feel kind of kiddie in a way that I don't think totally works. But it's one where, as I'm watching it, it's so easy to kind of get lost in the visual side of it. And I don't mean just the costumes, the set design. I mean just like a lot of the camera work as well. These great panning shots, these great overhead shots. You get the idea that when they're actually in the story, all of the camera shots and all of the angles, they feel so intentional, and they feel like it's not just there to only highlight the spectacle of it, but something more specific in each of the scenes. And I think that's what really is highlighted here. Because you feel like the little girl, you feel like you just want to get back to the story, because even if I don't think it always works, and I definitely don't think it always works, I do think it's also it's not even a long film, but there are times where it does drag a little bit, but I do think that this is one that, if given the benefit, this really does need to be seen theatrically. And if this was played theatrically, now the movie did a 4K re-release. I don't know if it's a restoration or I don't know. I mean, I assume it was a restoration because of it, 2006. And it's one that I think seeing it theatrically and seeing it at home is probably two different, not just on the surface visual experiences, but also I feel like I'd be able to appreciate this more theatrically. But with that said, this is just an incredible looking film, which is what everybody will say about it. Like I said, the shot composition, the costumes, the whole thing feels so meticulous that it's frustrating that it doesn't work more for me. But it's one that I think if anybody wants to be a cinematographer, wants to do any kind of color grading, any kind of costume work, I think this is such a great film to watch. And I think that now that enough time has passed where the film kind of has a footing, where when this came out, this got like a limited release. There wasn't really a lot of talk about it, at least, I mean, outside of, film festivals and all that. This didn't, to my knowledge, get very much theatrical distribution. I think there was just not, it comes out and people really aren't sure what to do with it. So now, at the time has passed, people are able to maybe appreciate it more, see more of the intentions, rather than just, because when a film comes out, there's so much talk and speculation and hype, one way or another about it. Maybe people are like, you hear about a divisive film and people are just kind of ready to either like dog on it or just be like I'm gonna unanimously love it. And that's why I think ultimately films, like any kind of art, needs to age, needs to sit. That's why when I look at something like Megalopolis, it's one that I think really needs to sit with, not just me, but I think with a lot of people. It's a film that I really like a lot, but I also think that there was such a what's the word I want to look for? There was such an ambivalent towards questionable reaction to the film that a film like that and a film like The Fall is not going to play well in an AMC, 20 screen theater or a Regal or a Cinemark. It's going to play at the art houses far more. They're gorgeous looking films. Both, I think, have significant problems with them, very obvious problems with them. Um, but I think these kinds of films, these very artistic, visually striking, even grandiose, not just in scale of location wise in terms of The Fall, but in terms of themes, of message, of the overall point of Megalopolis, an incredibly hopeful film, not just about solely creation and art, but filmmaking as well. And the cat knocked something over. That's great. But that's why these films, that's why I always say, don't, you know, if a film's coming on, everyone's dogging on it, everyone's loving it. You just separate yourself from that. You really gotta kind of tune out all that noise. Just don't go online. Don't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that kind of stuff, but it's sort of like people are very hyperbolic, positively or negatively. Every movie now is the best movie ever, or it is the worst movie ever. Is everybody is quick to have the most ridiculous statement on a film. Calling an average to mediocre film the worst film ever made, and then calling a pretty good to enjoyable film the best film of the century, and this and that. It's sort of like uh, these these pieces of art really need to sit not just with a general audience, but I think just with an individual person about how you perceive these things. It's the same way you watch a comedy you watch the first time, maybe you don't laugh as much, and then you watch it again and again. When you think about you, the listener, when you think about your favorite films, I mean, how many of those did you watch the first time and go, oh yeah, this is one of the best films I've ever seen? To me, not too often. There are plenty of films I watched the first time where I'm able to appreciate and acknowledge and go, wow, that was an incredible film. But how many, there are amazing films that I watched once. And there are good films I've seen 6, 7, 8 times. Does that mean the good film do I like that good film more than the amazing film? I don't know. It's just that it's more rewatchable. So I can acknowledge a brilliant film, like that's harrowing and disturbing and horrific, that perhaps I don't want to watch, again and again, or I want to let my repeated viewings be spaced out to be able to take in the significance of the content more. Instead of just you watch a film and you have a death scene that you didn't see coming. It's like whoa, but then you watch it again, knowing that it's coming. Is the impact is it going to be lost on you if you watch it again and again and again? I mean I think so, but it's ultimately everyone's prerogative. But yeah, I mean the films like The Fall I think are just so fascinating, and I've always been curious. I haven't watched it yet, but I was, for whatever reason, it was also reminding me of Southland Tales, the Richard Kelly film, which I've never seen, but I've always heard people they have very strong opinions on it, either positively or negatively. Richard Kelly, such a fascinating filmmaker. Comes out of the gate with Donnie Darko, and then he doesn't, in terms of commercially, is never really able to kind of follow that up, because his films are so not all of them divisive, but people don't really have strong reactions to them outside of Southland Tales, because he writes Domino from 2005, which I owned on DVD and I never watched, and I don't know why. I don't even really know much about it, truthfully. But then he does Southland Tales in 2006, which I always attributed that to 2007, because I think that got a release in 2007, because I know it played at festivals and stuff, and the original cut of that film got re-edited, and I think the original cut actually is on the Arrow Video release, which I'd be very curious to watch. But he does The Box in 2009, which I think is a pretty lousy film, and I don't just want to dog on that. I really don't want to dog on these films, but I'm saying it's just strange how, does a filmmaker like that get disinterested after his films are does he get disinterested, or does he see the critical reception of these films and maybe not want to do them anymore? I don't know, but whether or not a film is good or bad, I think if one is taking swings like this and doing something more interesting and unique, I'm more okay with it not being a good film than something memorable or something interesting, rather than a studio flavor of the month superhero whatever film. And those films have their merit as well, but I'm just not interested in those. I'm speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the kinds of films I'm attracted to, and I'm just not particularly interested in much spectacle anymore. I need something a bit more long lasting. And that's not to say I don't still enjoy spectacle, mainstream 2,000 plus theater films. There's plenty of great ones I've seen this year. So that's not a case of me not watching those. They're just not ones I'm particularly attracted to anymore. So something like The Fall comes around, and me talking about it, even though I'm not head over heels about it, and I have a lot of problems with it. That's the cat doing. You're trying to interrupt my show. What are you guys doing? Sorry, guys. I don't know if you heard that or not. The cat's going crazy over here. I don't want to pause it because I'm just about at the end. But, yeah, just even if you're in your own craft, in your filmmaking, in your writing, do something that is unique. Do something that's, or if you're going to do like maybe a revenge film, there's been thousands of revenge films, do something else with it. Do something that really makes it stand out. A movie like Avenged in 2010. Solid film, because at its heart, it's a revenge film, but there's something more supernatural about it too. It's a solid film about this girl who's assaulted and left for dead, and this Native American spirit enters her, and she channels the Native American spirit to get revenge on these guys. And I'm just like, man, that's such an interesting premise of a film, and the film itself is really good. Results may vary, but ultimately I think it's like, man, there's good stuff there. And I actually had to pause it right there to step up for a moment, but I think that'll be a good place to wrap it up anyway. So keep working on your art, keep perfecting your craft. Just make it a consistent pattern, man. Make it like your job. Every day you have to do these things. So, if you want to be a filmmaker, a writer, a musician, a painter, whatever it is, if you have 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, these things snowball over time, and then you're going to be looking in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and go, man, just these little pockets of time that I had that I could have used to scroll on my phone or just sit there and do nothing. I actually have something to show for it, and I have actual good, fulfilling work to look back on and build from there and see what I want to do with from there. But yeah, just a great time of the year. Plenty of films to watch. There's so much to read. There's so much to get done. We really don't want to take for granted these beautiful days that are given to us. Yeah, that's really all I got to say, guys. I'm not trying to be too repetitive or too redundant. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening. New People Pictures coming very soon, most likely. And that'll do it for this episode. So take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.